folks, and welcome to Subjective Thoughts. And our comic for today is Zombie World Champion of the Worms, Issue 1 by Dark Horse. Now there is fighting, dark magic, mummies, and weird shit in this one, so if you are in any way squeamish, you have been warned. Also, spoilers. Alright, here's the team. So, this is another comic I got from Mr. Ray's Awesome A-OK. I still have a few of those left to get to. And it's one I've never heard of before. It's a 3-issue miniseries that came out in the late 90s. It said 97 on my comic shop. But yeah, I've never heard of this one. Written by Mike Mignola and art by Pat. Here, I hope you can see that. I'm not sure how to pronounce that surname. So yeah, this gentleman or lady. Not sure here. I guess it would be Patty, but anyway, yeah, never seen this one before. Cover, of course, by Mike Mignola, so happy about that. By the way, all 3 issues seem to have a Mike Mignola cover. Well, I wish he still did most of his covers today. But yeah, it's a 3-part issue miniseries, and the focus here is this team over here. This one, I wonder if it's also connected to the world of Hellboy. Maybe it is, because they do have Hyperborea in here. But anyway, let's get to the story now. So, we start in Hyperborea, in a very old age. And we see mountains all around, and on one kind of mountain where there's 7 people. 6 hooded men and what seems to be some priestess or magician lady. They're standing around a sarcophagus. Sarcophagus? Wait, sarcophagus, I think. And performing some kind of ritual, saying the magic words. And the priestess lady, or whatever she is, as they're saying the ritual, she has a scarab, what appears to be a scarab, on her headdress, and she takes it off and puts it like in the chest area, like on the scarab where the person's chest would be, above basically. She places it there, and as they're doing this ritual, there's some kind of big figure of a skeleton with kind of a Cthulhu-esque priest headwear, and a tongue that's this sort of worm is watching them and like holding on to the mountains. It's really creepy shit. And and then she says like the last few words, and then she's saying sometimes some of the hooded men say something, and then there's a shot of bright light, and they're all gone. All is left are the men's hoods, and all of them disappeared, and you just see the sarcophagus just where it was. And then we go forward 42,000 years later, what was then modern day, in Massachusetts. Wait, let me just make sure. Yeah, 42,000 years later, and we're in Whistler, Massachusetts. It's some kind of museum. We see the museum director with a young woman called Miss Dean. Now her father went on some kind of expedition and uncovered all these artifacts from the Hyperborean age. in Antarctica and has been sending them to this museum. In them included the same sarcophagus. And now Miss Dean is adamant to see said sarcophagus. Now, ever since it's been brought to the museum 2 weeks ago, there's been problems. The security guard has quit after one night there, and they had some workers to do renovations, but they've also left after an hour, claiming that there's been strange noises and things. And now the only one in the museum is this director. I forgot his name already. But it's this director, and even he's been hearing noises and things. So he's called in some experts. And she's like, what kind of experts? And he's like, they'll come to check the sarcophagus. And so she tells him, well, come on, lead me to the sarcophagus. And, this exhibition of the sarcophagus and all this Hyperborean artifacts are gonna put your little tiny museum on the map. And he's like unsure of himself, and he's like, yes, Miss Dean, but... Well, anyway, they go down to where the sarcophagus is supposed to be. Miss Dean is like, yes, finally. And she wants to go touch it, and then suddenly a voice behind her says, please don't touch that, miss. And they turn around, and we see our team. So we've got this lady, him, that's the major, and that's this guy over here in the glasses, that's, I think, Eustace? Eustace, I think, the major called him, if I read that correctly. Let me tell you what they're called now. One moment, please. Come on. Okay, there we go. Alright, so his colleague's Roman, that's the big guy in the coat. I guess he doesn't have a surname. Then the lady is Malka Revenstein. And Eustace, St. John. And he's Major Damson. Okay. So here's the, I forgot his name, Malka, Roman, and again, this is Eustace, and this is Major. So they're this team, they don't say where they're from exactly, but they're this team, and they are there to check the sarcophagus. Sarcophagus. Oh, I'm struggling with that word. Now, I wonder if they're connected to the BPRD. They seem like they would be. For some reason, Major kind of made me think of Alan Quatermain from League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Maybe it's his age and look. Anyway, they check the sarcophagus, and then Malka says, the lady, I think something's been taken off of the sarcophagus. And she's referring to the fact that the scarab that we saw in the beginning is missing. It looks like someone pulled it out, and you see some signs of damage to where it has been. So Major says quickly, pull off the lid. And Roman and Malika, they remove the lid, and as he feared, the sarcophagus is empty. So and the director of the museum is like, how is it possible? No one's been here, and who could have stolen, what was on it and the mummy inside? And, I've seen the security guard leave. And then Malika's standing against the wall, and she said, well, he could have taken the stone or the thing that was there and put it in his pocket. And he's like, oh, no, I'm ruined, and Miss Dean is angry. And Major's like, okay, let's go try to find that mummy, because that he couldn't have carried out. The director's certain that the workers on the renovations couldn't have, because he saw them out. And since then, there's been security outside the museum 24/7. So they start going to the, because they opened up like a whole wing for this exhibition from Hyperborea, for Hyperborea. So they go down to where the mummies are, because they have a lot of them. They have a whole section for them, and there's many more in storage. So as they keep going towards them, they get to the mummies, but then the mummies come to life and start attacking them. And then Roman and Malika start fighting them off. Oh yeah, Eustace, I should mention, is blind. I forgot to mention that. He's blind. But he can sense evil and all sorts of other things, and he warns them before the mummies attack. So Roman and Malika fight them off. Major tells them, you keep them occupied, we're going to go take the director and Miss Dean to safety for now. So they walk out of there, and Malika's like, well, don't be too long, it's a little tight in here, referring to all the mummies around them. At least they're easy to kill, though, because they're practically falling apart. Major is leading them, and then he sees, like, a little closet, and he tells Miss Dean and the director, stay in there and don't open the door for anyone but us. Then he tells he tells Eustace that he knows what they're dealing with. He knows who this is that's causing all of this, and his name is Professor Dean. That's the one, Miss Dean's father. He unearthed the tomb of Azul Gotha. So Azul Gotha was the most dreaded of the Hyperborean necromancers. He was really hated at the time. There was a thief, a poisoner, and a secret worshipper of, I imagine, the same worms, things that Hellboy later on fights. Worm gods. And not to mention those other worms that are in space. Anyway, it was long banned, and then some other priests and kings, sorcerers. So that lady was probably a sorceress. So they created this talisman, the scarab, in order to keep him alive, but bound forever in the sarcophagus, basically. So they buried him alive and they put him there. And now someone has removed the talisman, and Azul Gotha is free now. So yeah, they're fucked, basically. Okay, and then it's like, come on, we have to be quick. And then they go back to Roman and Malika. They're okay. There's a mess, a lot of destruction. Well, there's nothing they can do. They have to fight them off, obviously. And then they're like, okay, there's no more time to lose. Once we collect Miss Dean and the director, we need to go. But unfortunately, when they get to the closet where they left them, they're gone. Someone took them. And he used to say, yeah, I definitely feel something was here. Something took them through the air vent that was in the closet. Just curiously how, because the director is quite a plump gentleman. Let's just put it like that. He's fat. So I'm surprised they managed to pull him through that. Now, Miss Dean is fit. She would... Anyway. And they're like, okay, then we have to search the whole museum, but the museum is big. It will take too long, and then Eustace says, hold on, I may have another way. Now hold me, I'm going to lose consciousness. And then an essence comes out of him in the shape of a woman. I was so confused. It's him, but his essence is for some reason a woman, because you can clearly tell by the shape it's a woman. So I'm confused. But anyway, that's his essence. He's gonna go up, and Roman's like, that's weird. And Major's like, yeah, it's a bit it's a bit unsettling. I assume these four work together. No, did he not tell him he could do that? Or had they just never seen it in action? Or were they all four just sent together randomly on that time? I assume they would know we could do that. Anyway, Eustace Zesson says, yeah, I can feel their signature of fear of Miss Dean and the director. And he goes through the air vent until he reaches the end of it, and then he's looking through, and it's another big hall, probably another place of showing another section of the museum. And there's a lot of mummies there, and then we see Azul Gotha standing there. Miss Dean, with her hands tied, is kneeling in front of him. The director's off the stage where they're standing, surrounded by the mummies. And so now Azul Gotha's been bounded for eternity, so he was alive. I don't know why they didn't just kill him and then unlock his spirit or something. Well, granted, he's a necromancer. Maybe they feared he could get back. Well, the solution didn't work either. Should just burned his body to a crisp. Anyway, he's there and he's saying, I've long awaited. Now, Miss Dean doesn't know who he is, and to him that's an advantage. He's like, oh, so the world will not be ready for me. I will now conquer all. And he wants Miss Dean to be his wife for some reason. He's like, when your father dug everything up, I saw an image of you in his mind. And I've decided that and I influenced him to write to you. That's probably why she wanted to see the mummy so badly, because of his influence. But he said it would have taken you too long to get to me, and I was anxious to be free. So he made that security guard, who's an idiot, see that the scarab thing was actually gold. So he tore it off of the sarcophagus, and that allowed Azul to be free. So he got up, he took his crown, headpiece, and his mask, and well, he was free now. But he is not in full strength yet. And for that he needs a blood sacrifice, which is what the director is going to be. And the director faints after hearing that. Understandable. I mean, holy shit. Poor man, I think, is going to retire after this. If he makes it out alive, that is. And he's like, yeah, you're going to be my wife. And now, Miss Dean manages to untie her hands, and she hits him. But all it does is cause his mask to fall off, and she's horrified because he's a dried up mummy, basically, under there. And he's like, view the face of your husband. You're going to be the queen of corpses with me. And she's horrified. And then he senses Eustace's essence and says, I can feel a spy. And although I'm not in full strength, I can deal with this. And he shoots almost a beam of magic towards Eustace's essence, which causes it to lose an arm. Back outside of the closet, Eustace is yelling like, motherfucker! And Major's like, Eustace, language. His essence gets back into him, and he tells them what happened. Now, his hand is going to be in bad shape for a few days. He tells them, they're like, okay, can you stand? And he says, yes, I think so. Roman and Malka, they lift him up. And they're like, okay, then let's go. We need to get there to Azul and to save Miss Dean. Destroyed a portion. Ectoplasmic body. Okay, not essence, ectoplasmic body. Again, I wonder why it's in the shape of a lady. Although granted, in another Hellboy series, they also have a guy that can do something like that. Or similar in his shape as a gorilla, so fair enough. Yeah, and Azula Grath is planning to marry Miss Dean. And then Major says, to Hyperborea. And then the last panel is we go to, back to Azul. And he's like, fools, weaklings, come if you dare. Then you can possibly imagine forces, darker forces you can imagine. Without the binding stone, I can not live much longer. Soon I will travel down the dark path, then rise again. I will claim my queen, and we too shall preside over an empire of death. Ha 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 ha. Evil laugh. And poor Miss Dean's like putting her face in her hands and like, oh, and it's like, help. And that's where the comic ends. Oh, I gotta show you the, look. You see that says ectoplasm, and you see that's definitely a lady. Interesting. Okay, so first cover. How can I say, I love me a Mike Mignola cover. It's got all the classic signs, all four of them standing. These two are fighting. Now I wonder what the Major's, what does he do here? Was he just the leader of their group? Because Eustace has his senses and his ectoplasmic form. He can fight with the hammer and is strong. She can shoot. What can he do exactly, I wonder? But yeah, cool cover. You see the focus here is them four and the mummies around. And then here you can see Azul in the background. Okay, so first, let's get to the art. This is very nice art. It's nice and crisp. So it's very nice, clear art. You can see here. I really like it. It reminds me, there's a DC comic I read that had something a little similar, but the shapes were a little wacky, to be fair. You can see, that's what I was talking about. I think that might be Azul, because the headpiece is the same. It says Azul Gotha. You see there's the sorceress lady. Maybe he's trying to curse them or something. Look at that. That's fucking awesome. Yeah, good coloring as well. Again, the art style is very good. I wish we had more art like this in comics nowadays. There you got that. You see, and then they all disappear. I wonder if this ritual cost them their lives, perhaps. And then you see that's the director, you see? He's chunky. And that's Miss Dean over there. And there's our team. You see, there's the Major, Roman, Malika, and Eustace. That's the sarcophagus. I think I can show you a bit more because it's not a new comic. There they go, they're fighting. You see, he's got I wonder where he keeps that mallet. It's gotta be in his coat, right? Because you don't see him carrying it with him. And then you got, 1 second. Isn't he a handsome bugger? Jesus. Imagine waking up to that face. Poor Miss Dean. Hopefully they can save her before she has to marry that thing. Oops, sorry, camera moved. Okay, and then there's just Eustace's ectoplasmic form. Yeah, you see, that's clearly a lady. So it's just interesting. I guess, though, it doesn't have to necessarily be your real form, right? You can project whatever you want, I suppose. Alright, so that's the art. Okay, now for the story. So far, it's a very catching beginning. I mean, we got some dark magic, necromancies, evil prison for an evil necromancer. We got a team of interesting characters that are our heroes. And we also have a sacrifice about to happen. And a possible evil that'll rule the world. All the makings of a good story. So yeah, really good beginning. I like how they started with this ritual of imprisoning him those 42,000 years ago. That was cool. As at first, I was kind of like, oh, I wonder what they're doing. But it starts with that, and you're not really sure until you don't get to the until you don't get to later. But yeah, the team I find very interesting. Now, it's not told where they're from. I wonder if they're meant to be from the BPRD, perhaps. Because he says we're going to call experts, and I imagine that's where your experts would be from. At least usually in this world. But maybe not. Because it's interesting what the major is from. Oops, sorry. Yeah, it's interesting where the Major, the Eustace, Roman, and Malika are from exactly. How did they band up together? How they, created this team? Sorry, it's a motorcycle. Ugh. Yeah, so it's interesting how they banded up and made this team. Perhaps in the next issue there'll be a bit more information about them. I certainly hope so. They seem to be a very interesting bunch. I look forward to see if they can save Miss Dean and the director. Those poor bastards. Especially the director. He's like, oh, I just wanted to be a director of the museum. I wasn't planning on this. Well, as far as sacrifices go, he sure is a hefty one, isn't he? But that is it for them for now. Now, I don't know when I will continue, because unfortunately I only have this first issue. But hopefully later down the line I can get the other two that I'm missing and finish reading this, because it's definitely up my alley. It's very cool. It's got all the things I like, and of course it's written by Mike Mignola. And has Mike Mignola covers, which I am very pleased with. But yes, this is definitely one I will try to get the other two issues for, especially since it's so short. And I hope the rest of the story will be interesting as well. But that is left to be seen. I'm guessing our champion of worms is referring to Azul here. So I would gander. But yeah, that's it. This was Zombie World, the Champion of the Worms, issue 1. Let me know what you thought of this one if you read it. And if you haven't and you're a fan of Mike Mignola, I definitely recommend trying to find it if you can. Imagine it's probably not too expensive, hopefully, and definitely recommend to give this one a read. Let's see, anything else I wanted to mention? I think that's it. Eustace's powers are interesting because he has the ability to sense that and then project an ectoplasmic essence. That's peculiar. I wonder if we'll find out if the Major has any special abilities. Well, that is left to be seen. Alright, folks, so let me know what you thought of this one down below in the comments. And remember, collect what you're passionate about, share it on YouTube. Bye!